Audio.
If you enjoy the stories on this podcast, you'll also like the stories in my book, Filmmaking Confidential, which isn't just for filmmakers, but also all artists and really any entrepreneur. Now an Amazon.com and Audible.com bestseller. I just want to say thank you to all of you who ordered it. If you haven't yet picked it up, it's available wherever books are sold in most countries around the world. To find out more, check out filmmakingconfidential.com and stevebalderson.com. And thank you. I'm Steve Balderson, and you're listening to the Filmmaking Confidential podcast. In every episode, we meet with filmmakers, writers, actors, artists, and other notables. Today, I'll be reading from my newest book, Accessing Creativity: Unlock Your Inner Genius. One. Introduction. Accessing creativity is easy, but not effortless. Some of the things I share in this book are mindsets and practices that may seem heavy to unpack at first, but I invite you to give them a thoughtful read. Take what resonates with you and leave the rest. We all come from diverse backgrounds, influenced by the places we were born and the environments we've experienced. These differences shape our unique perspectives, and understanding this is crucial for effective communication and ultimately accessing our creativity. Creativity isn't a talent reserved for a select few, nor is it an elusive force that we can only hope to capture through sheer luck or divine intervention. Rather, creativity is an innate aspect of our being, a part of our very essence that we can access and nurture if we learn to recognize the signs and follow the clues of inspiration that lead us to it. Creativity is, at its fundamental core, a form of communication. Before we can fully tap into our creative potential, we must first understand the intricacies of how we communicate. The essence of communication is woven into the fabric of our interactions, comprised of words, tonality, and physiology. Astonishingly, words make up only a small fraction, only 7% of our communication. This insight highlights the profound impact of non-verbal cues. Alfred Hitchcock famously asserted that a movie should be understandable even without sound. This principle underscores the importance of nonverbal communication. In fact, 55% of our communication is conveyed through our physiology, our gestures, facial expressions, and body language. Another 38% is communicated through the tonality of our voice, the pitch, pace, and volume with which we speak. Understanding this triangle of communication elements, words, tonality, and physiology, can dramatically enhance our interactions and creative expressions. Creativity is not an abstract concept. It is a dynamic process of expressing and sharing our unique perspectives with the world. And to navigate this process effectively, we must first master the art of communication. Physiology, 55%. Our posture, facial expressions, gestures, and even our breathing form the cornerstone of how we communicate. The way we carry ourselves, the way we move, and the expressions we make all convey a wealth of information. A smile, a nod, a raised eyebrow. These subtle cues often speak louder than words. Our physiology is a dynamic backdrop that displays most of our communication. Posture. The way we stand or sit can convey confidence, openness, weakness, or defensiveness. Facial expression. A smile, a frown, eye movements, and even the rate at which we blink can communicate our emotions and reactions. Gesture, hand movements, nodding, or other body language can emphasize points and express feelings. Breathing. The rhythm and depth of our breathing can signal relaxation or stress. Tonality, 38%. The sound of our voice adds another layer to our communication. Beyond the words we use, how we say them carries significant weight. The tone, tempo, timbre, and volume of our voice can change the meaning of our words entirely, adding nuance and emotion. Tone, high-low. The pitch of our voice can indicate questioning, excitement, or seriousness. Tempo, fast, slow. The speed at which we speak can show urgency, calmness, or hesitation. Timbre, crisp, raspy. The quality of our voice can be inviting or harsh, soothing or grating. Volume, the loudness of our voice can express anger, enthusiasm, or secrecy. Words, 7%. Although they make up the smallest percentage of our communication, words are still vital, so we better make sure the words we decide to use are wise choices. The predicates we choose and the content we convey provide the structure for our messages. The specificity and detail we use in our words can shape how clearly our message is understood. Predicates, the verbs and descriptors that frame our sentences, guiding the listener's understanding. Content, vague versus specific. The level of detail we provide can either paint broad strokes or fill in the intricate details of our communication. If everybody understood this, it would revolutionize interpersonal communication with any relationship. Family, spouse, friends, boss, employee, everybody. Almost everyone has received an email or text message without adequate or specific words, and sometimes the wrong words altogether. It's no wonder there are so many misunderstandings in communication when people miss out on the voice and body language. Text messages and emails are only operating at 7% effective communication levels. Another thing to understand. The meaning of communication is not what you're saying. The meaning of communication is the response you get. It's what the other person hears. For instance, you might know exactly what you're thinking. You have an exact picture in your mind. You know exactly what you're talking about. When you pick words to describe that image, the other person is not privy to the image in your head. They only take in the words you use and notice your body language or tonality. They have no idea what's going on inside your mind. Communication is not about what you intend or about saying the right words. Communication is about creating an experience in and getting a response from the listener. The emphasis is on the importance of the outcome of communication rather than the intended message. It is the responsibility of the communicator to adjust their message until the desired response is achieved, improving effectiveness in any interaction. A lot of people don't realize this because they think that the way they see the world is obviously the way that everybody else is seeing it. No two people see the same thing the same way. Even so, many people cannot imagine that others understand things in a totally different way with a completely different meaning. You can even see this in the words I have used in this paragraph. It is full of visual words. seeing the world, or no two people see the same thing. My father, who is an auditory processor, meaning he primarily takes in information through sound, would have written, no two people hear the same thing. Remember this when you are communicating. Think about an event or situation occurring nearby. This experience enters our minds through the five senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, feel, gustatory, taste, and olfactory, smell. Each of us has a predominant order by which these senses enter. I'm predominantly visual, followed by auditory, and then kinesthetic. My father is predominantly auditory, followed by kinesthetic, and then finally visual. Understanding how each person processes information is like understanding a new language. Once the experience has entered our minds, we filter this information by deleting, distorting, and generalizing it based on our unique experiences. These filters include time and space. Where are we? What is the context? Language. The words and native tongue or dialect used. Culture. The cultural context we bring. Memories. Our personal memories of similar situations. Decisions. Choices we've made throughout our lives. Values and beliefs. Our core values and beliefs. Attitudes. Our general outlook on life and specific situations. Every person's filter is unique, even if they grew up in the same environment. Your values, beliefs, attitudes, decisions, and memories shape your internal representation of external events. This process is universal, happening whether you are aware of it or not. When you are having a conversation or experiencing an event, the words and experience itself pass through a filter. Every living person has their own unique filter, even if someone grew up in the very same house or neighborhood you did. Their filter is a different make and model than yours. No two people have the same filter. Our perceptions of the world are not the world itself, but only our interpretations of it. Your own values, beliefs, attitudes, decisions, and memories are then turned into your internal representations of the external event or situation. All humans go through this process whether you know about it, understand it, choose to disregard it, or not. After we've made an internal representation of what's going on, that internal representation is going to put us into an emotional state. The way we process this information will inform and affect our psychology, physiology, and our state of being based on what the filter has made into the internal representation, which will be different in every person. Another thing, this process happens in a fraction of a millisecond. The results come out in our behavior, whether they are actions or verbal. Effective communication is a lot more complicated than simply deciding what to say to someone. Every single person's externalized and internalized experience is different. If I speak English and you don't, no matter how loud I say it, you won't understand what I'm saying. You might understand that my tone is angry, or that I need help, and my face might look frightened, but you likely won't understand my words because I'm not speaking your language. Even if you do, in fact, speak the same language, communication between two people is frequently ineffective. I know film directors who turn to the set dresser and say, "That looks ugly. I said to make it beautiful." Those words are very general. There's nothing specific about the word beautiful. One person's idea of beautiful is another person's idea of ugly. And there are a million ways to communicate in between the two. If the director is mentally picturing a green vase and has associated the word beautiful with the color green, the director should specify and communicate this. No one else knows what he's thinking. Many people are certain and clear about whatever they are imagining in their minds. Sometimes these images are so clear and obvious to the thinker, it is as if everyone else can see the image too. The DNA of communication is made up of 7% words, 38% tonality, and 55% physiology. Once you know this and understand it, only then do you realize that 93% of meaningful communication is unconscious. It doesn't matter if you say, "I'm fine, thank you," while you're sitting in a corner with a scowl on your face. The other person will know that you are definitely not fine. Now that you know this, you will see the benefits of specificity in communication and the disastrous effects of not being specific everywhere you go. You can use this knowledge to benefit your relationships, working environments, and experiences every day. Imagine the ripple effect this understanding could create, transforming misunderstandings into clarity, conflicts into harmonious interactions, and everyday conversations into profound connections. This is the power of truly understanding the full spectrum of communication, and it is the gateway to unlocking your full creative potential. An excerpt from the book, Accessing Creativity. One of my favorite guests from Season 1 is cult icon Mink Stoll, who co-stars in my new feature film, Love, Venezia.
John Waters will tell you a story that I threw a saxophone at him. We didn't speak after we finished filming Pink Flamingos. I moved out.
You can hear my full interview with Mink at filmmakingconfidential.com or by subscribing for free to this podcast. Love, Venezia is the closing night feature at Cinema Diverse, the Palm Springs Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, on September 29th, 2024. Tickets on sale now. Coming up, I'll read another chapter from Accessing Creativity. That's next, right after this. I'm Steve Balderson, and this is the Filmmaking Confidential podcast. I'm back with a special bonus episode reading from my new book, Accessing Creativity. Unlock your inner genius. Chapter 3. Understanding Judgment. We sometimes encounter barriers when trying to access creativity that we don't even notice. A major one is judgment. Not the type of clear thinking used to make sound decisions, but the kind that divides things into good and bad and right and wrong. This kind of judgment can be a significant obstacle, stifling creativity. Judgment can be defined as an act of forming an opinion or evaluation based on perceived qualities, merits, or faults of a person, object, or situation. At its core, judgment involves labeling, categorizing, and assigning value or worth, often accompanied by feelings of approval or disapproval. While judgment can be useful in certain contexts, such as making decisions based on available information or accessing the safety of a situation, it can also become a hindrance to our creativity and personal growth when misused or taken to extremes. One of the primary ways judgment manifests in our lives is through our inner dialogue, or the mental commentary that runs through our minds on a continuous basis. This internal narrative, often influenced by societal norms, cultural values, and personal experiences, serves as a lens through which we view and interpret the world around us. As we encounter new ideas, experiences, or people, our minds automatically begin to evaluate, compare, and categorize them based on our pre-existing beliefs and biases. This process can be so deeply ingrained that it becomes an unconscious habit, coloring our perceptions and clouding our ability to see things as they truly are. Another important aspect of judgment to consider is its social dimension. As humans, we are naturally social beings, and our sense of identity and self-worth is often shaped by the opinions and expectations of those around us. This can lead us to engage in judgment as a means of establishing our place within a social hierarchy, seeking approval from others, or reinforcing our own sense of identity. However, this constant evaluation and comparison can leave us feeling inadequate, full of self-doubt and jealousy, stifling our creativity. To begin the process of deconstructing judgment, it is crucial to recognize the impermanent, subjective, and constructed nature of this concept. Rather than being an inherent or fixed part of reality, judgment is a mental construct, a product of our thoughts, beliefs, and conditioning. By acknowledging the imagined nature of judgment, we can start to loosen its grip on our lives and cultivate a more open, curious, and non-judgmental mindset. Judgment can be broken down into 3 parts: self-judgment, our judgment of others, and being judged. These judgments are deeply ingrained in us. As children, we begin to internalize messages about ourselves, our capabilities, and our worth from our caregivers, teachers, and peers. These messages, which can be both overt and subtle, shape our beliefs about ourselves and the world around us. For instance, a child who receives praise and encouragement for their artistic endeavors may develop a sense of confidence in their creative abilities, while another child who is constantly criticized or compared unfavorably to others may struggle with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. Cultural and societal influences also play a significant role in shaping our tendencies towards self-judgment and comparison. In a world that often places a premium on external achievements, material success, and narrowly defined standards of beauty and intelligence, it is easy to fall into the trap of measuring our worth against the accomplishments and attributes of others. Social media platforms, for example, often exacerbate this tendency by providing a constant stream of carefully curated images and narratives that invite comparison and fuel feelings of envy and dissatisfaction. Another crucial factor contributing to self-judgment and comparison is the human brain's natural inclination towards pattern recognition and categorization. This cognitive process, which evolved as a survival mechanism to help us quickly identify potential threats and opportunities in our environment, also predisposes us to make snap judgment and comparisons as we navigate our daily lives. While this ability to rapidly evaluate and categorize information can be advantageous in some situations, it can also reinforce our habit of judging ourselves and others, perpetuating cycles of self-doubt, competition, and discontent. To overcome the destructive force of self-judgment, we must begin by examining the roots that give rise to these patterns of thought and behavior. Being aware of our personal history, social influences, and cognitive tendencies, we can learn to recognize the triggers and patterns of self-judgment and develop strategies to counteract them. In doing so, we can break free from the constraints of judgment and embrace our true creative potential. Many people actively seek experiences where they are not judged, longing to be loved and accepted for who they are. This acceptance can heal the wounds caused by conflict and misunderstanding. Growing up in Kansas, I was often judged for being different, which led me to judge those who judged me. It was a cyclical trap. Every day, we make countless judgments. We judge ourselves, our relatives, our friends, politicians, protesters, and those with different values or lifestyles. Some judgments are harmless, like, "That movie was terrible," while others are more problematic. Understanding how the process of judgment works provides ways to transform it when it becomes harmful. Being judged often feels like being attacked. It can make us feel inferior, restricted, and diminished. It usually results in short-sightedness, where our perceptions and responses become limited. We either shrink defensively or counterattack with judgments of our own. No one enjoys being judged. It is always unpleasant. Judging others, on the other hand, makes us feel powerful. We feel a sense of superiority and rightness. This feeling of power is usually accompanied by a sense of rigidity, and our perceptions tend to narrow and simplify, focusing only on what we are judging. To explore this concept, think of something outside yourself that you judge as bad, wrong, or evil. Notice what that experience is like for you. Judging something as good can also be insightful, but it is usually easier to notice the process when judging something negatively. To better understand judgment, it is useful to compare it with the concept of preference, which shares the expression of values but differs in its intensity and impact. Preference allows us to express what we like or dislike without the harshness and rigidity of judgment. Preferences are generally milder, such as "I prefer tea over coffee." However, for the purpose of deeper comparison, we need to think about strong or very strong preferences. By examining a strong preference like, "I strongly prefer honesty over deception," we can see that it still conveys our values, but in a more flexible and understanding manner. This approach contrasts sharply with judgment, which often simplifies and distorts the richness of our experiences into rigid, binary choices. Through preference, we maintain the ability to appreciate nuances and context, promoting a more inclusive and less confrontational perspective. Think again of the same person, act, or event that you judged as wrong. Now, express your feelings as a very strong preference, like, "I really prefer Y over X." Compare your experience of judgment with your experience of preference. Notice the differences in what you see, hear, and feel. One key difference is that preferences involve two or more representations, what we like more and what we like less. Judgments, on the other hand, usually focus only on what we condemn. Preferences allow for a range of values, while judgments are binary, either-or distinctions, good or bad. Preferences versus judgments. A preference is a personal response of liking or disliking something. It is true for the individual and does not impose on others. Judgments, however, simplify and distort experiences, reducing them to absolute terms. Judgments delete the rich sensory details of our experiences, resulting in a rigid either-or distinction. In preference, we can appreciate both positive and negative aspects, while in judgment, we only see one side. Judging simplifies life, but at the cost of deleting much of our experience. It imposes our values on others and assumes that everyone should respond the same way. This often leads to conflict, as disagreements with our judgments threaten our worldview. Judging separates us from our own experiences and the experiences of others, making communication and problem-solving difficult. Judgment is a mental shortcut. It saves us time and cognitive effort by categorizing experiences and people into predefined boxes. While this can be useful in certain situations, it often leads to oversimplification and misunderstanding. When we judge, we fail to see the full picture. We miss out on the richness and diversity of human experience. Judgment can be useful in situations of real and immediate danger, where quick, decisive action is needed. In such cases, taking time to evaluate nuances can be dangerous. Because of this usefulness, judgment is often triggered when we feel threatened, even if the danger is not real. In modern society, true life-or-death situations are rare. Most of the threats we perceive are not physical dangers, but threats to our ego, status, or self-image. For instance, public speaking is a common fear, but it poses no physical threat. The perceived danger is to our reputation and self-esteem. The consequences. Judging sets in motion a recursive process that builds upon itself, becoming more intense over time. The more we judge, the more we delete the details of our experiences, leading to increased defensiveness and reliance on judgment. This creates a vicious cycle where we become stuck in negative patterns, unable to reach positive outcomes. Judging others places us in a position of superiority, which separates us from those we judge. It turns disagreements into power struggles and undermines effective communication. Judging is inherently disrespectful, as it disregards the unique individuality and circumstances of others. Judgment can also be expressed nonverbally through tone of voice, posture, or facial expressions. These nonverbal cues can even be more impactful, leading to confusion and discomfort in others. Understanding how judgment works provides us with the tools to transform it. The problem with judgment lies in its oversimplified nature, which rarely fits real events and is resistant to feedback. Since danger often triggers judgment, creating a sense of safety can help relax our judgments. Recognize that most modern threats are not life-threatening. Developing our individual perception can make us more resistant to criticism and reduce our tendency to judge. To transform judgment, recover the specific details of the experience being judged. This involves answering questions about who, what, how, when, where, and why. This process enriches our understanding and shifts us from judgment to preference. For example, if you judge someone as being lazy, ask yourself about the specific behaviors you are observing. What exactly did they do or not do? When and where did this happen? By recovering these details, you can move from a broad judgment to a specific observation, which is more actionable and less harmful. Perception shift. The perception shift method allows us to change the way we experience judgment by modifying the elements of our perception one by one until the experience becomes more like a preference. 1. Visualize 2 images. Start by creating a mental image of the thing you judge negatively. Next, visualize an image of something you strongly prefer. Place these 2 images side by side in your mind. 2. Step into the preferred image. Immerse yourself in the image of what you prefer. Feel the positive emotions associated with this preference. Notice the details that make this image appealing to you. 3. Transform statements. Change any you statements related to the judgment into I statements. For example, instead of thinking, "You are wrong," think, "I prefer honesty." 4. Animate the image. If your preference image is static and in black and white, transform it into a dynamic, colorful scene. This helps to enrich the experience and makes it more lifelike and engaging. 5. Adjust sensory qualities. Identify the sensory and emotional qualities of your judgmental image. Change these qualities to match those of your preference image. This could include altering the mental imagery, changing the tone and volume of your internal dialogue, and adjusting the physical sensations linked to that judgment. By making these adjustments, the harshness of judgment starts to dissolve, replaced by a more nuanced and compassionate understanding. This perception shift method helps us see the broader spectrum of possibilities, fostering a more inclusive and less confrontational perspective. Judgment tends to divide our world into stark and unforgiving categories. By shifting our mindset from judgment to strong preference, we allow ourselves to see a broader spectrum of possibilities and adopt a more compassionate view of the world. Cultivating compassion. Now let's experience what it's like to become the person you judge. This practice is rooted in many spiritual traditions and helps us develop compassion and understanding. The following 3-point perspective process of investigating different perceptual positions can help us understand the other person's experience and clarify our own responses. This technique involves shifting one's perspective to better understand different viewpoints in a given situation. It typically involves 3 primary positions. 1. First position. Self. Viewing the situation from your own perspective, you focus on your own thoughts, feelings, and experiences. 2. Second position. Other. Stepping into the shoes of another person involved in the situation. You try to understand their perspective, thoughts, and emotions. 3. Third perspective. Observer. Viewing the situation from a neutral, detached viewpoint. You observe the interaction between the first and the second positions without being emotionally involved. The 3-point perspective exercise allows us to shift through 3 distinct viewpoints to fully grasp the dynamics of a situation. By considering these perspectives, we can gain a deeper understanding of motivations, feelings, and behaviors. This process helps us see people as whole individuals rather than reducing them to a single judgment. Exercise. 1. Identify the situation. Choose a specific situation involving someone you have judged or have difficulty understanding. This could be a conflict or a scenario where you feel confused, angered, or hurt by someone else's actions. 2. First view. Self. Begin by viewing the situation from your own perspective. Focus on your thoughts, feelings, and experiences related to the situation. Ask yourself, what are my immediate reactions? How do I feel about this situation? What do I want or need? What do I hear or see? The other person, the environment, in the room around us. 3. Second view. Observer. Next, shift away from self, leaving self where it was, and move across the room to the perspective of a neutral observer where you can see both the self and the other in equal distance from where you stand as the observer. Imagine watching the interaction between the self person and the other person. As an impartial third party, ask yourself as an observer, what do I observe about the interaction? How do both parties seem to be feeling? What dynamics are at play? Does the room or environment look different? Four, third view, other. Finally, shift away from observer, leaving the observer where it was, and move to the perspective of the other person involved. Imagine stepping into their shoes and experiencing their viewpoint. Consider their background, experiences, and challenges. You won't know for sure, but you can be curious and imagine. Ask yourself, what might they be thinking or feeling? What are their motivations and needs? How might they perceive my actions? How does the room or environment look now? 5. Reflect on insights. After cycling through these perspectives, reflect on any new insights or understandings you have gained. How has your perspective on the situation changed? What new information have you discovered about the other person's behavior and motivations? 6. Integrate and respond. Use these insights to inform your interactions. Approach the other person with greater empathy and understanding, recognizing their humanity and complexity. Example of the process. Imagine you have a colleague, Sarah, who you often find difficult to work with. She seems uncooperative and is often angry, which frustrates you. Identify the situation. You choose a recent conflict with Sarah as the focus. First view, self. You reflect on your frustration and feelings of being ignored. You recognize your desire for collaboration and respect. Second view, observer. As an observer, you notice the tension and miscommunication between you and Sarah. You see how both parties are struggling to express their needs effectively. Third view, other. You imagine Sarah's perspective, considering her background and recent stressors. You learn that Sarah has been dealing with a sick family member and is overwhelmed. Reflect on insights. You realize that Sarah's behavior is a coping mechanism for her stress. She isn't uncooperative, she's struggling. Integrate and respond. Armed with this new understanding, you approach Sarah with empathy. You offer to help with her workload and show patience, recognizing the challenges she's facing. 3-point perspective not only helps us understand others better, but also fosters compassion and connection. By stepping into different perspectives, we move beyond judgment and develop a more nuanced view of situations. This process can transform our relationships, improve communication, and create a healthy environment. Incorporating this into our daily lives can lead to profound changes. Forgiveness. With a sense of safety, a detailed understanding of the judged experience, and compassion for the other person, we can reach a state of forgiveness. This process involves simple shifts in perception and a whole-body experience of letting go. Forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior or forgetting past hurts. It is about freeing ourselves from the burden of judgment and resentment. When we forgive, we release the negative emotions that keep us tied to the past and open ourselves to healing and growth. The role of reframing. Reframing is a powerful tool in transformation. It involves changing the way we perceive a situation or behavior by placing it in a different context. By reframing, we can shift from a negative judgment to a more positive or neutral perspective. For example, if you judge someone for being overly cautious, you can reframe this as them being thorough and detail-oriented. This shift in perspective can change your emotional response and open up new possibilities for interaction. Think of reframing like changing the frame around a picture. The image remains the same, but the way you perceive it can shift dramatically. Envision a black and white photograph of yourself as a child, with a nasty pout on your face. Now, place that photo in a vibrant, whimsical frame. Suddenly, the mood of the photograph shifts. What was once a somber moment might now bring a smile or even a laugh, transforming the way you relate to that funny little pout. Apply this technique to everyday frustrations. If you're stuck in traffic or hitting every red light, instead of simmering with irritation, use the moment to feel gratitude for not being in a rush. It's a nice chance to slow down. Perhaps the universe's nudge to take a breath and enjoy the present moment. Or, when you arrive on time for a meeting and find yourself waiting because the other person is late, instead of letting frustration bubble up, appreciate the unexpected pocket of time for yourself. Use it to meditate, enjoy some music, or simply savor a few moments of peace. In relationships, conflicts can often feel like dead ends. Instead of concluding, "This relationship is ruined," reframe these moments as, "This is an opportunity for us to communicate better and strengthen our bond." Such a perspective encourages constructive dialogue and mutual understanding. Whenever you find yourself spiraling into negativity, pause and ask yourself, how can I view this situation differently? How can I turn this into a positive experience? This habit of questioning and reframing can profoundly alter how you navigate life, turning perceived setbacks into steps toward a more fulfilling and creative existence. Useful steps to transform judgment. 1. Awareness. The first step in transforming judgment is becoming aware of when you are judging. Notice the thoughts and feelings that arise when you make a judgment. Pay attention to the language you use and the physical sensations in your body. 2. Pause and reflect. When you catch yourself judging, pause and take a moment to turn inward. Ask yourself why you are judging and what you hope to achieve. Consider whether there is another way to view the situation. 3. Seek understanding. Instead of jumping to conclusions, seek to understand the context and reasons behind the behavior or situation. Ask questions and gather information. This can help you move from a judgment to preference and empathy. 4. Practice compassion. Actively cultivate compassion for yourself and others. Remember that everyone is doing their best with the resources and knowledge they have. Practice self-compassion by being kind to yourself when you notice judgmental thoughts. 5. Communicate openly. Engage in open and honest communication. Share your observations and feelings without making judgments. Use I statements to express your preferences without blaming or criticizing. 6. Let go. Practice letting go of judgments that no longer serve you. This can be a gradual process, but each step toward letting go frees up mental and emotional energy for more constructive pursuits. Acceptance. Acceptance is a powerful antidote to judgment. When we accept ourselves and others as they are, we create space for growth and transformation. Acceptance does not mean condoning harmful behavior or giving up on improvement. It means recognizing and honoring our inherent worth and the worth of others. Acceptance allows us to move beyond judgment and see the bigger picture. It enables us to appreciate the complexities and nuances of the human experience. With acceptance, we can build deeper connections. Judgment separates us and creates conflict, while preference fosters understanding and communication. By transforming judgment into preference, we can navigate differences without condemnation and work together towards common goals. In a world filled with conflict, this shift is desperately needed. Accessing creativity. Unlock your inner genius is available on Audible, in paperback, and ebook, wherever books are sold. Tune in next time for more Filmmaking Confidential. It is totally free to subscribe, and when you subscribe, you'll get upcoming new episodes automatically, and you'll have free access to all our past shows. The Filmmaking Confidential podcast is a production of Dakanga Audio and produced by myself and Ella Spencer. Our original theme music is composed by Kevin Robles. I'm Steve Balderson. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep making, keep doing, keep going.